What's up, crew? Today we're going to be going over my top 24 birds of 2024. Let's get right into it. Realistically, it's not in too much of an order until we get to like the very top ones, but I just wanted to highlight some of the insane birds and really cool birds I saw this year, or last year, I guess. It's 2025 now. And I saw, I think, around 525 species. So this is really the cream of the crop here, the top 1% of the species I saw. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Starting off strong here at number 24, we have the beautiful, elegant Trogon. So pretty much what I'm going to do is just going to be kind of like any of my other videos with the creature comps. I'm just going to have the still picture and just kind of describe, you know, what the bird is. This is a very special bird, only native in the U.S. to the mountains of southeastern Arizona. And I saw this in Madera Canyon, this one at least, and they were barking and everything. And I'll add a video of that here next. And yeah, that was just a super cool moment to hear him barking and echoing through the mountains. And yeah, so just such a great bird to start off our list. And moving on, here is the black-billed cuckoo. This was taken at Packery Channel Park in Corpus Christi, Texas, while me and my good friend Cooper were, winding down. We were eating some Little Caesars sitting in front. We are gonna look for a scarlet tanager, which I still don't have for Texas. It's my number one need for Texas. We're eating Little Caesars, and I look up and I go, "Hey Cooper, does that look like a black-billed cuckoo to you?" And he couldn't see it, and then it flew, and it in fact was black-billed cuckoo. So pretty cool moment. Kind of a common bird here in the U.S. in the grand scheme of things, but definitely wanted to include it. And then the Berlin hummingbird. What a awesome bird. We saw this bird in the Southwest Research Station in Cave Creek Canyon in southeast Arizona, and we were basically the first people to find this bird. A man named Buzz found it first. He's a state reviewer for Alaska. Super cool dude. And that Berlin hummingbird, what a pretty bird. So it was an awesome bird to add to our list here. And now we have the ferruginous pygmy owl. This is such a cool species of bird. There's a really cool place to see it. We've got a picture of where me and Cooper saw it coming up with our friend Caden, who's a great birding guide currently in Arizona. And here it is. It's basically out in the saguaros of Arizona, and you just hear it doing this little whistle from I don't know how far away it was, and it flew in, and it was just an amazing moment and a super cool rare bird, which we had another moment with just this year in South Texas. And mind the photo quality. Some of the photos aren't as good as the other ones. And a lot of credit to Cooper for taking honestly most of these photos. But this right here, we're finally getting up to Colorado. And as many of you know, I go to school at Colorado State University. This is the Rambling, which was in Colorado Springs pretty much all winter. It was a pretty cool experience to go see this bird because it was just basically in someone's front yard. Me and my friends, Simon, Sean, and Finn, were walking around on a brisk February morning in Colorado Springs, and we see this just Eurasian finch in the middle of Colorado. So, pretty cool bird. Now we're heading back to the canyons of southeast Arizona with one of my favorite sparrows and probably favorite birds that you can find in the US, and this is the five-striped sparrow. This one was in Box Canyon, um, and me and Cooper were in his Toyota Corolla, driving down these dusty mountain roads, and it was just crazy. And we see two guys stopped, just had it, and what do I hear singing up on the ridge is a five-striped sparrow, and one of the guys, played a little call on his phone, and it flew in for these great photos, which were taken by Cooper. Now we're coming up on one of my favorite habitats that's in the whole country, and that is longleaf pine savanna. And this bird, which I'm highlighting right here, is the red cockaded woodpecker, which I found in May at Angelina National Forest in East Texas. And the longleaf pine savanna is just so cool, and it's such a limited habitat. And I'll add a picture of it coming up here in a second. But the red cockaded woodpecker is an endangered species that can be found in the southeast US, and it was my 500th species in the world. So that was a super cool experience. And it's crazy that I got my 500th species in May, and I hit 500 for the year in like July. And now we have the white-eared hummingbird. And this one was such a cool experience. We were at a place called the George Walker House in Paradise, Arizona. We helped capture a black-tailed rattlesnake with the owner, which was pretty cool. But we were sitting there just talking to the people who own the house and Buzz again, who I mentioned with the Maryland hummingbird. And we were waiting for this thing to show up, and then I spotted it. It came into the feeder. Saw that big white stripe behind the head. Such a cool species right there. And now we're moving up way north to the Jack Pine woodlands of Michigan. And this is obviously what do you find in the Jack Pine Forest is the Kirtland's warbler. I don't have any pictures. I do have a recording on eBird. If you go to my account, you can find it. But I just took some pictures of habitat to include here because Kirtland's warbler, I mean, such a cool species. I couldn't leave it off this list, even if I didn't have a nice picture of it. Man, oh man, oh man. The American flamingo who kind of became a celebrity in Corpus Christi, where I saw it, I guess Port Aransas, at the Leone Bell Turnbull Birding Center. It was there for, I think it's still there. And I saw this in July, and it had been there since November of 2023. And that trip in May that me and Cooper took, where we got some of the previous species like the black-billed cuckoo,
That's the biggest gator I've ever
are
seen.
here. Look at that big right there. That is Boots the alligator, another celebrity from Leone Bell, and he is 14 feet long. That is the biggest gator I've ever seen in my life.
You hear?
But yeah, finally seeing this flamingo was super cool. After missing it in May, because that was actually the main focus of our trip in May. Uh, but we ended up getting some other cooler species, which are later in the video, shockingly. And but yeah, the flamingo, it just seemed like a real full circle moment and super cool. Saw this one in July. Now, this little inconspicuous bird is a Pacific wren, and I found this one on the Gray Rock Trail in the Poudre Canyon in Fort Collins, Colorado. So this was actually probably the first and honestly, I think maybe the only true rarity that I've found in Fort Collins on my own. I was hiking with a friend of mine, and we were eating gummy bears at a trail intersection. I started hearing the and that's what the trail was looking like. And I turned around and there was Pacific Rim. A gorgeous January day that we saw that bird. Sticking here in Fort Collins, we've got kind of a terrible picture, but the varied thrush, which is a bird I've wanted to see for a super long time. They occasionally come to Colorado, and it's been a pretty good year for them across the country. I think there's been a record in North Carolina and even Maine. And this is a true Pacific Northwest bird, so really rare to see in the Northeast and less rare but more common in you know, whatever, in Colorado. But this one, I got up early before class to go get it, and it took me a couple hours, but ended up finding it. Kind of a good picture, but such a pretty bird, and one I had to add here. Now, this one right here was taken in Texas, so obviously this is an Arctic tern. That is just crazy. I think this was the 13th record in the state found by my good friend Cameron, and we were with Cameron when we found it again, and you can tell it's got those really stubby legs, the long wings. But that was a super fun day. We found three pretty good rarities. We found the Arctic tern, some masked boobies, and a Sabian's gull. And here's a picture of me. Wow, look at that handsome young gentleman. That's me after getting the masked booby. I got my scope in the background, and some of you may recognize this as my profile picture on Facebook because it is quite a cool picture with a lot of good memories associated. Now we have a South Texas special from arguably the best rarity winter maybe ever. And this is the roadside hawk. And this was at Resaca de la Palma State Park in Brownsville. And me and the CSU Ornithology Club were sitting here for what felt like a long time. And we finally ended up seeing it and another rare bird later in the video. And now we are moving in to the top 10. And let's start off with the top 10 with arguably one of my favorite birds, the greater prairie chicken. Personally, I prefer the Atwater subspecies, but this was taken in Colorado at a lek. And wow, this was just such an amazing experience. This is a bird I've dreamed about seeing. And I woke up at about 4 a.m. and drove the 2 and change hours out here to come watch these birds lekking and hear their calls and all of that stuff. And it was just amazing and something I'll truly never forget. Now, this is the only other one that I don't have a picture of, but for this one, I technically don't even have proof, but other people I was with do have proof. So this is the crane hawk that was at Salinenio Wildlife Preserve in Starr County, Texas. And this is basically the view we had. We were looking down the river and there was a big kettle of vultures, and there was the crane hawk with it. A kid came running down the trail yelling, "The Great Hawk's here! The Great Hawk's here!" And so me and the rest of the CSU Ornithology Club start running down, and it was right there, and we got to see it, and it was just a super cool experience. We were all high-fiving. Not 2 seconds later, red-billed pigeon flies by. Super cool. If you are ever going to be birding in South Texas, definitely go to Salinenio. And for this next one, you might have to squint a little bit, but this was another kind of popular rare bird in the Corpus Christi area. That wasn't the cattle tyrant, which I haven't even mentioned in this video, and I'll leave that for the end. I got ahead of myself. But right there in the middle is the bar-tailed godwit, sandwiched by two marbled godwits. And this bird was giving people hell. I tell you what, people were having a really hard time finding this bird, and me and Cooper just got so incredibly lucky with it. We walked out of the car, and there it was, sitting right in the middle of the lake. And we just happened upon it. And yeah, we just got really lucky. It flew off. That was the last time anyone saw it at that spot. Popped up again at the soccer fields in that area. But yeah, super cool bird. Very rare for Texas. And here's a bird I could talk about finding for the first time for probably way longer than I should in this video. And this is the black cat vireo. Me and Cooper hit Pace Bend Park just outside Austin in Spicewood, Texas, at the tail end of our May trip to Corpus, and we were walking around for hours. It was hot. We were lost. We finally found the road after following a power line cut, and we were still a couple miles from the car. And this is pretty much what we were looking at here. And I just hear off to the side that kind of like the classic Vireo sound, and there it was. It popped out right in front of us, and we got just a super cool bird that's really classic to Texas. And another funny thing about finding it was Cooper put his hand directly in a cactus right when we found it. And for this next one, this amazing picture, which we barely got, thank you, Cooper, is a Bachman's sparrow. And this is probably my favorite sparrow species in the US. Finally getting it was so awesome. This was in Angelina National Forest, where we also saw the red cockaded woodpecker. Bachman sparrows are extreme specialists, just like the red cockaded woodpecker, and they have one of my favorite songs of any bird. And I've got a video of that coming up, so I'll have to shut up here in a second and let y'all listen to the song. But such a cool experience. Right when we got out of the car here at Angelina National Forest, they were singing. So here's that video.
I'm saying I'll give you this.
I'm getting a video too. I mean, how awesome is that? And on the same trip, we got this bird, the black noddy, which is a seabird, which usually you can only find in the US at Dry Tortugas National Park right off the Florida Keys, but this one was hanging out at the Port Aransas jetty for most of the spring. Pretty cool bird, and honestly, it was pretty like not doing too good, so it was sitting right there. You can see it just past my index finger there. Uh, and I decided to take a selfie with it because of how crazy it was to be so close to such a rare bird. And this trip had some crazy rarities, like this next bird, the flame-colored tanager. This bird was basically in a tiny grove of trees in front of a hotel eating orange slices, and this was the first Nueces County record. And like I said earlier when I was talking about the flamingo, these are the two rare birds I was talking about that are arguably, not arguably, are just straight up way rarer than seeing a flamingo when you're in Port Aransas. And it was a super cool day. Uh, this was the night before we had a fallout at Leonabo with all bunch of warblers, and all this stuff, and then a double rainbow to close us off. Super cool day. For fellow U.S. ball knowers, this is the gray collar Beckard, and I slightly foreshadowed this one when I was talking about the roadside hawk. This was the other rarity that was at Resaca de la Palma in Texas last winter. And what a cool bird. This is such a crazy looking bird. And when we saw this bird, I was actually standing directly under it. And if I had looked up with my mouth open, it could have pooped right in my mouth because I was just so shocked that it was that close to me. And this is I snapped this one from the back of the camera of my good friend Simon Tolsman. This is actually the number one photo on eBird for this species now, so I probably should have taken advantage of it and stolen it from him. Guys, sorry for the lack of continuity. I know I'm wearing a different outfit than I was at the beginning of this video. This is like 4 days later. I am an environmental engineering student, so I got a lot of stuff to do. But this next one, I'm just gonna let the video speak for itself. This is number two, the Mexican spotted owl in Southeast Arizona.
We just got a freaking Mexican spotted owl. Holy crap. This bird is in it. Dude, no way, no way, no way, no way. It's right there, dude. No way.
You see it?
Listen, listen.
Did it land?
No way, it just flew right over my head.
Dude.
That was insane. Dude. Holy crap.
Did it land?
I don't know. Let's go look for it.
So for those of you that don't know, the spotted owl is an endangered species of owl that can only be found in the western US and parts of Canada and parts of Mexico. This is the Mexican spotted owl, which is the subspecies that we have in Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Texas, and obviously Mexico. But this one was at our campground, and we were literally carrying the tent to go set it up when we hear that. And man, we obviously freaked out, started filming the video, and then while Cooper was filming, well, another one called. So super cool experience and another one that I will probably never forget. Now for number one. This is probably my favorite bird on my life list, just in terms of how hard it was to get. Uh, the place it's at Big Bend National Park, which is one of my favorite places in the world, and the process of getting it. Me, me and Cooper hit up Big Bend on the way to our Southeast Arizona trip, and we did a 5.5 mile hike in, 5.5 mile hike out to Boot Canyon. That right there on the right is the boot, if you couldn't tell, shaped like a boot. Woke up the next day and sat at Boot Springs, found a bear skull just sitting there right in the spring. How cool is that? And eventually ended up finding probably, and I say this a lot, the hardest bird to get in all of the United States, and that is the Kalima warbler. This bird only breeds in the US in the Chisos Mountains here in Texas. And it's a rather inconspicuous species. Really, the only thing that sets it apart from, like, I don't know, Virginia's warbler is the color of the crest and the undertail coverts. But this is such a cool bird. Um, and it was such an awesome experience getting to see this bird in Big Bend. We had been sitting at the spring for, I don't even, 45 minutes maybe. And we were like, dang, it's going to be hot on the way down. We probably got to get a move on. But a family of deer came up behind us. And then I go, let's wait 10 more minutes. And then lo and behold, there was a Kalima warbler sitting right there in front of us. And Cooper got these amazing photos. But yeah, that is just about going to wrap it up for us today. That was my top 24 birds of 2024. Maybe I'll start doing this every year. We'll see. 25, 25. They'll get pretty long. I think this video is probably going to end up being around 20 minutes. Hopefully I don't talk too long here at the end. But thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll release more than a video every 2 years. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, wait. A lot of y'all are probably wondering, Alder, where's the cattle tyrant? I have a personal issue with this bird. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about it I don't like. So I'll go and put my picture of the cattle tyrant in. Sure, it might have been the rarest bird that was in Texas and probably the US last year. And it probably got the most attention. And yes, it became a local celebrity in Corpus Christi, but I don't know. He just wasn't my cup of tea. Seemed a little arrogant, but that's how we're going to close off the video with cattle tyrant.